start with the end in mind. You don't have to plan per year. Normally you're planning per season, post-Worlds to the end of the next Worlds. Begin long-term planning with the objective regatta, work back in the timeline as you do it. Justify everything. The objective is to discuss with the sailors and justify all of the activities. Why are we spending this time and money to do this? This is the difference between a calendar and a program. A program has meaning. A program is hitting the wind conditions you're trying to find, the competition level you're trying to find, the correct competition and training partners, and so on.
To plánování se dělá od záru, to všichni víte, že v podstatě od toho posledního závodu, který má být tím hlavním závodem, v podstatě počítáte ten čas zpátky a zase znovu je důležitý si uvědomit, že ten plán není kalendář, ale že ten plán je jako nějaká cesta k tomu cíli, má nějaký odůvodnění toho, kde jste, kdy a proč, prostě, že třeba vyhledáváte v nějakém čase větší konkurenci, že potřebujete se zájít ve větším prostředí, nebo potřebujete třeba najít místo, kde se zrovna, kde hodně fouká, v tom posledním závodě hodně fouká, nebo málo fouká, protože v posledním závodě málo fouká. Prostě, že ten plán má nějaký, začíná odzadu, kde jako jde vlastně jako proti toku času a má nějaký smysl. Není to prostě jenom kalendář. No, vždycky to odůvodnění věci, odůvodnění události.
Using the profile to help appropriate competition schedules 6 to 8 events. I justify that because I read a study where someone had been through medalists in the past and their ISAF profiles and how many were Grade 1 events and then now World Cup events they were hitting per annum, and then the Europeans and Worlds. But 6 to 8 contests at Olympic level per annum in the international calendar. Can't overemphasize needing to find your foundation training periods and to outline the other periods to help justify what you're doing at those times in the year to build your program.
No, že ten program by v podstatě měl zahrnovat zhruba 6 až 8 velkých závodů za ten rok, s tím, že v tom asi už je zahrnutý i ten hlavní závod, což vám dá dostatek času na to, abyste měli tu první fázi toho, kdy dáte všechny základy dostatečně velkou na to, abyste vlastně mohli taky něco udělat, protože by to nemělo prostě být víc než 6 závodů.
Build in your funding and qualification events to make sure that the funding is flowing nationally. Practice the goal events, making sure that it's not just a once a year thing where you're having to deliver when the pressure comes on. It doesn't change how we sail and how we approach the event. All a race is, all a regatta is a sum of processes, and getting those processes right, but we have to practice it. Get our training partners and plan systematically long-term planning reviews, because if things aren't working, we have to be adaptable, and if things change, a sailor's injured, funding doesn't come, a sponsor promises money but it doesn't happen. We're going to have to be flexible and dynamic rather than it being the end of the world and ruining our program.
A musí se to samozřejmě zahrnout všechno jako různý kvalifikace od asociace. Rozhodně by to mělo zahrnovat nějaký jako cvičnej goal event, ten cvičnej jako závod, kde si už nacvičíte i to, jakým způsobem vlastně jako závodit pod tlakem. Vy si v podstatě učíte, že to je stejně jako to mistrovství Evropy. Tam se učíte, jak to vlastně jako zvládat, ten tlak toho, že musíte už vyučit výsledek. Ale zároveň to mělo být jakž tak flexibilní i na prostě nereální události typu zranění a tak dále. A máte vždycky v průběhu toho roku, už by to mělo zahrnout i ty body, kdy si dokážete udělat nějaký review, nějaký jako prostě se podíváte zpátky přes, jestli ten plán funguje, do běžení, se zastavit, podívat se, ano, funguje, pak možná úplně, když nefunguje.
Home time. Home time is necessary for sanity. It's necessary on the athlete side as well as the coach, everybody involved. One of the biggest differences I've seen working in small teams to a big team is as a large team travelling, it is more home away from home. You still have the same people around you as you're living with generally as a young athlete. And you also are able to, in a cost-effective way as a team, take specialists and use them enough to make it happen. Then having worked with Ireland and Singapore and only having a couple of sailors at the major events, you couldn't justify taking the other specialists who were input into the campaign with you. And I had to adapt and build that into the program differently. So the sailor was spending enough time in Singapore to use our other support services and support, and the same in Ireland previously.
Poznámka toho, že vlastně ty velký týmy si můžou víceméně dovolit ten čas doma v uvozovkách strávit tím, že jsou venku, protože jsou velký tým, takže si ty specialisty různí, jednak ten environment je vlastně hrozně podobný tomu rodinnému environmentu, si vlastně můžou dovolit nejezdit za těma specialistama zpátky domů, ale můžou si je vlastně vzít sebou díky tomu, že jich je hodně.
So I'm going to show just 3 programs and point some things out in a moment. Any questions from the talk so far?
Yeah, I remember that you have mentioned your GBR Opti sailors, that their results, let's say worldwide, are not so excellent.
Yes.
However, they are gaining experience until, let's say, 20 years of age.
Yes.
And then they are selling their experience gain up to that time. What would you recommend? Because I think in our country it's slightly different, maybe, because sometimes the peak for the young sailors is opti class, and then they are having difficulties to decide which way to go, which class to pick up. What would you recommend for that period of time when the young opti sailors have to decide which way to go and keep him within the sailing rules until he is adult?
Well, the way things work in the UK is it's quite public and clear that there is no correlation mathematically between optimist results and Olympic medals. It's only been in recent times since Qingdao that optimist medalists such as the Chinese girl who won in London have begun to medal, and the optimist is a very long-term class. So the idea is, back to the first slide of this with my 4-year-old daughter last year, it's about having fun. What we're trying to do in GBR is to make sure that they're introduced to all aspects of sailing, even if it's not relevant to the optimist, and even if it's not necessarily going to make them better at European or world level at 13, 14, 15. Because it fits into the program in the education, so when they've chosen, with guidance from the federation and hopefully their coach who's passing them over to the next class, they're going into 29 and radio or whatever it's going to be, they know, the new coaches, what they already know. But traditionally, Jim Saltonstall was above the RYA and everybody looked up to him, and he guided the sailors and the families through the transition. I remember, I didn't sail optimist, I sailed topper, but I remember him coming to my family and saying, okay, Ian needs to be in a Europe dinghy. We need to ring Sweden and get a Europe dinghy for him, he's grown out of the topper. And my father saying, but his older brother sails laser, it's going to be complicated. And then having a discussion and agreeing that 5 days later I'll be in a laser standard at a training camp and move on. The guidance, the fun factor, the reason they have so many people still involved is because it was a lot of fun. I was never on the GBR system. I've never been world-class performance funded as a sailor, only as a coach. I didn't have the professional career these sailors are having now, but I had a hell of a lot of fun with it, which is why I'm still around. So we've got to make it fun, junior, youth, put them into another boat, try and keep it fun, try and keep installing the skill. You can't decide at 13 years old that you want to be an Olympic medalist. Giles Scott is one of 3. His oldest brother was good. His younger brother is really good. The coach put him on. He stopped. It's a tragic loss for the whole country. But we've got to make it fun, keep participation high, make it enjoyable, but be professional in our delivery and what we're giving them. Because at some point they'll decide, actually, I do want to do this. And when they decide they do want to do it and want to do it properly, that's when they improve and we can input even more. And it's normally at 18 or 20 years old, or even after university, when they really click, and we can finally make the big game. It's hard. It's a difficult period. The dropout is high, and we need to keep people in and enjoying it. The big difference with Singapore is that if you couldn't achieve optimist medals because you were the wrong shape, there was nothing. You didn't get to go from no wind in Singapore to Perth, Garda and Gran Canaria every year that the little guys did get to do and get taken out for 8 hours a day and pushed and pushed and pushed. So the people who have the right body type to move into, let's say on the female side, 470 crewing, FX and radial, didn't get any background. And that's a big thing that we can adopt. We can keep a good, quite performance-based system with a curriculum and the inclusion of people who we think are going to be the right body shape to fit into the other classes.
Teda otázka toho, jak se vůbec že jako
lidi odchází.
Takže ty lidi odchází, kvůli tomu, že třeba se jim nedaří, když jsou na těch že postupují pak jen ty jako v přízovkách nejlepší optimisti. Že se jste že se optimisty snaží, že jste se mi základ už vědomost, tak to je ten, že vlastně ten sport to o tom vlastně, když přijde na programování, tak mě hodně jde o, jak je ty jaká důležitost, že mají ten vědomost základ obecný, když ten vědomost základ vlastně v tom optimistu vyjadí třeba pomáhá, ale zároveň pro mě je důležité to, že a to vlastně u optimistů největší problém, že z optimistů vlastně vylizají ty největší skrčci, jo, který pak jako v olympijském letníku prakticky nemají vůbec šanci se uplatnit. A tím, že vy to nedáte těm ostatním taky a vylezou vám pak z toho ty správní lidi jako vejškově a fyzickým procesem, mají ten základ, ten základ těch skrčků, takže to pak vlastně máme vlastně ty skvělé máte ty eurozijský.
Tomu bych dodal, že já jsem na tak nikdy nevyšel. A za to se to musí zase jako asociace a musíte si jasně říct, že neexistuje vůbec žádnej, ono to je víceméně pravda, neexistuje vůbec žádná jako relevance mezi tím, že někdo jezdil dobře na hoďáku a potom uspěl na olympiádě. Prostě to tak není, a to je čistá ta statistika, jo, není to vůbec jako nějaká dobrá.
Just quickly, I've got 3 calendars that I've scraped together. This is the Asian Games calendar, very classically set out with training blocks, racing blocks, very confused, I thought, when I looked at what they were trying to deliver, and they were asking me if I wanted to become the coach. They hadn't taken big enough blocks without racing to get those foundation periods. They're in Asia, so they think they're going to come to Europe. They also think they're going to go to Australia. The racing volume's high, but this individual's missing training blocks of a month or more where he could really change his downwind technique in a laser, which is one thing he needs to do. What I did really like when I looked at this and was proposed with it, as I said, was the way the fitness tests were clearly marked in as to when they were going to happen. And I thought that's in a way that I would be putting my profiling sessions in 2 or 3 weeks after the Worlds, after the foundation period. How much have we improved? Just before the peak event, to see our improvement and install the confidence and how we would plan. I got 2 programs then from the French. Sorry, it's too much.
Tam ten první plán, tam bylo vidět, že v podstatě ten člověk jako neměl moc, že tam neměl žádnou tu velkou periodu, kdy na sebe jako nějakým způsobem mohl pracovat. A jestli jsem to pochopil správně, oni jako pozměnili ten plán tak, aby jako vlastně tam nějaká taková perioda vznikla a vložili do toho i ty dny, kdy měl nějaký ty fitness testy a v těch oni zároveň udělali to, co jsme dělali, to, co tady bylo na té první přednášce, tu tabulku toho, jak se jmenovalo, no, když vlastně viděli, jak moc postoupil v těch jednotlivých cílích a volech. Že vlastně jako dali na začátek i nakonec toho velkého bloku tréninkového. To už je nějaký francouzský plán.
Classic French plan, as every individual would present to their performance centre and then the federation to show what they were doing per annum. I get shown them at home as my wife's working for the French Federation and has to comment. I would much rather do something completely unsane related. But this is a classic in showing too much racing activity and peaking of too many regattas. He's one of these young laser sailors who fits into the under 21 category, but he's good enough to qualify for the adult events as well. So he's now racing at least 2 Europeans and Worlds a year. But which one is important? Which ones are for experience? Which ones are training regattas and just in the competition period? Which one is the peak, where you are putting yourself under pressure and you need to deliver to prove the program's working, and that you're the right person to continue funding and working with, as the federation has to choose where they put their direction.
Tak tohle je zase plán nějakého francouzského mladého laseristy, jestli jsem to správně pochopil. A u tohohle plánu v podstatě jako vypadá poměrně dobře. Jediný problém je tady na konci, prostě, že tam je moc těch velkých závodů u sebe a vlastně jako z toho není jasně vidět, nebo není tam jasná struktura toho, jako na jakém tom závodě, který ten závod je ten důležitý. Jednak bude hrozně složitý pro něj jako ty závody všechny velký, obrovský zvládnout a zároveň hrozně složitý se na všechny soustředit tak, aby na všech vlastně jako podal ten nejlepší výkon a aby prostě tam není jasně daný ten vrchol. To je problém toho nemá, tam není jasně daný ten vrchol a to, co k němu má vést. To je 4 vrcholy prostě.
So final slide, just to show this is the head coach for all the single-handed stuff, and he's collating this as a previous year, but just taking the spreadsheet, putting in not individuals but their group, and just checking on activity, trying to work out how much activity is happening nationally in the national group and with the coach. Then taking the opportunity to check in with their training centre, 3 key centres where they could be training around the national programme, checking up on sailing volume, checking up on fitness tests and making sure the programmes are all being delivered.
Tohle je v podstatě už jako taková sumarizace nějakého jejich trenéra, který dohromady dá vlastně jako všechny ty plány, dát dohromady jako logistiku a to, kdy vlastně budou trénovat v zahraničí, a rovněž tam jejich francouzského trenéra, kdy budou trénovat v těch národních centrech, kdy se snaží propojit ty jednotlivé plány dohromady a tak dále.
A dry topic, hence the fun boat to start. That terrible yellow boat I went for a sail in. Not my best moment, going sideways. Any questions on program planning before we move on?
Are they program planning themselves, the athletes, or is someone giving them the structure and they just fill it up basically? Usually, or in France.
In France, with those examples, so the one I've removed the name off was a guy who has been in the laser standard since the Europeans in Barcelona. He's 18 years old, straight out of the radio. He's gone to live in La Rochelle for education purposes and to be part of the La Rochelle Performance Centre, of which there are 3. And he'll sit down with the director, coach, same person for him, and go through his program. There are areas in his program that are not activity of Team France. They're activity away on his own, funded by the family. He attended the Orange Bowl in Miami and some events, family funded. Then there's the activity and define what is with national coaches and also what is in La Rochelle around education and how that's all balanced.
Já se zeptal, kdo vlastně individuálně dělá, jestli s lidem sami, nebo jestli to dělá někdo, tak víceméně tenhle konkrétní kluk si jako ho v úzovkách udělal sám, akorát udělal s tím svým lokálním trenérem, uvnitř La Rochelle s tím, že samozřejmě ví, jaký ten rámcový program má jako efektivní národní koučovat. Jak si to asi jako dá řídit, více spíš to
Okay, so we've got 2 more talks to try and cover, event coaching and training coaching. We're running out of time. Would it be okay for everybody if we go straight into this and then we have a break for the bathroom afterwards to reduce time? Coaching, getting down to the nitty-gritty, the real thing a little more. 2 clearly different areas of a coach: event support and training coaching. First talk is more about the training coaching, which amongst even those 2 areas can be very different. You can be supporting one boat, you can be supporting, well, in laser world, 8 normally as a maximum, because that's the biggest trailer you can get. And the most boats you can put on one vehicle with a Zodiac.
Takže u koučování máme 2 oblasti, kterým se budeme věnovat, a to je koučování na závodech, na velkých regatách, který bude po této přednášce, a koučování tréninku, nebo tréninkové koučování. U toho tréninkového koučování zase ten rozsah těch koučování se dá stáhnout počtu lodí, který máte na starosti, může být od 1 až po 8 lodí, podle toho, co se vám nejde na vlek.
Previous slide, a sailor I've never coached, but I approached her and then her coach and asked could I take a picture of her hiking, because it's one of the best examples we have in the fleet of a short stance female hiking in the laser, and they were happy to let me take a photo of her. So it's an image to have in the back of your mind. Short hiking stance, boots touching the edge of the boat.
Když jste větší laseristů, tak nemusím překládat, že to je celý vyvažování některých jenom pár závoznic.
A classic day would be activation, a warm-up routine, physical training, might be before or after sailing depending on the conditions you're expecting. Priming, priming is what we do when we paint the house or the car. It's the first coat before you put the polish and the nice cosmetic layer on. Priming is about knowing what you're expecting with the conditions, knowing as a coach what you think the session theme is going to be, and trying to feed that to the sailors in a relaxed way as they warm up the night before, so they have the right expectations of how the day is going to be and what the sailing is going to be.
OK, tak ten den má nějakou strukturu, začíná to aktivací, nějakým rutinním cvičením, pak přichází na řadu nějaký fyzický trénink, kterým se coach přesvědčí o tom, jakým jsou závodníci nebo jeho svěřenci stavu a zároveň přitom navrhne časový rozvrh toho samotného jaktařského tréninku. Pak tady další bod, a to je předložení jakoby základů toho tréninku, co ten člověk má očekávat, ten svěřenec, tak aby věděl už dopředu, co se na něj chystá. Aha. Co se na něj chystá, aby měl správné očekávání.
This is priming before the briefing. There's always going to be a briefing. The location could be anywhere, but priming, get people thinking, make sure they're engaged in the project. Then we get into the briefing later. We have a sailing session if the weather permits, but we have alternative sessions ready if there isn't any wind. Plenty we can do on the land if it's going to be constructive in the long term and useful. The day always finishes with a warm down and a debrief. Sometimes one before the other, sometimes.
Takže před těma základníma informacemi, když ty základní informace většinou přicházejí nějaký ten skutečný briefing, kde si řeknete, co máte od toho trénování na vodě očekávat, co je v plánu, co je cílem. Pak přichází na řadu ten samotný trénink na vodě. Pokud to není možný kvůli povětrnostním podmínkám, tak v přítomné záloze i trénink na suchu. Ty možnosti jsou nepřeberný, musí být určitě něco, co vám bude v budoucnu k užitku. Pak samozřejmě to musí na ten trénink na vodě navazovat ten what do you call it after sailing session? Debrief and then the one after the warm up or whatever.
I call this
last slide.
warm down. They're the new terms. It used to be stretching and now it's activation and warm down. I'm not a physiologist.
No, tak někdo se jde na kolo a někdo jde na stretching a pak je večer si debrief klasicky.
How do we decide what those sessions are going to be, and the content is based on the age group. Is it pathway, youth and junior? Is it adult, Olympic campaign, using our curriculum, our profiles to give us the topics that are appropriate to the conditions we expect and the needs of the group. It doesn't have to be the coach's wisdom and him being somewhere here to say this is what we do today. It will be logical from what you have to achieve with the profiles, what you have left in the curriculum and what the conditions are as to what you are doing a flight.
No, takže samotná podoba toho tréninku potom se odvíjí od toho vašeho dlouhodobého plánování a zároveň od toho profilování té skupiny, kterou máte na starosti.
Might be camping, have to work around what is possible and what isn't possible financially, but why not camp at a training event? Why not camp at a non-peak regatta? Let's save what little funds we have for the key event. It can be shortcutted, it can be much shorter and much easier when the people who are working at youth, junior and Olympic work in a similar way. Also, when you're very familiar with the athlete or you're using standard exercises, but still you need to have it. Even if you're just going tuning and you're going to go tuning for 4 hours, you still need to get together to discuss the desired outcome, to think about the wind speed and what equipment you're using, how you're going to do this work with the settings, and make sure that the coach and the sailing team of individuals are working along the same field.
Ten briefing může být jako super krátký, záleží na tom, jak jste dlouho svou tréninkovou skupinu, jak se znáte, jak jsou si všichni navzájem podobný. Nicméně je důležité, aby prostě lidi věděli, co je cílem té denní tréninkový session a aby lidi jako šli na tu budou.
Think about the learning styles of the individuals. Use diagrams. Show video in the briefing of best example of what you're going out to work on, if you have it and it's appropriate with the level and the class you're working with. Finish the briefing by checking you're understood, especially with me working with international sailors of different languages. Ask direct questions. What's the first exercise? What's the second exercise? Why are we doing that exercise? And allow everybody to reinforce with the group that they understand what the plan is, why you're doing it, and just check it's going to run smoothly.
Tohle bylo pro mezinárodní, jak to řeknete, asi chápete všichni, ne?
Having worked with larger groups, having worked as a 2-coach team with a big group, and then having the benefit of working with only one sailor, you get to see how time can be wasted, how time isn't used efficiently, and how we feel we've been sailing for a long time but we haven't got the best out of it. There's always the same keen person in a group who is rigged faster and afloat first. There's always someone who's got a problem. You know, the girls, oh no, my bikini doesn't match my wetsuit. How can I go? No, I'm being awful. There's always something. Someone's forgotten the watch. Something's locked in the van. It somehow takes a long time to get everybody in the same place at the same time to start training. Something I always do at whatever age group is a warm-up exercise, a boat handling exercise, something to wake up the senses, to warm up the body, but to make sure that the keen people are getting more and the people who are late launching don't get as much. Discipline them in some way. Start the training, don't just sit and wait and waste time.
Takže všichni asi máme tu zkušenost, že ten čas se na té vodě dá taky pěkně dobrhat, že vždycky, když je čím větší skupina, tím je to samozřejmě horší. Vždycky je to tak, že na vodě jsou první vždycky ty samý lidi a vždycky mají ten problém mít na vodu včas zase ty samý lidi. Proto je dobrý začínat tu tréninkovou dávku nějakým zahřívacím cvičením, tak aby ty, co tam jsou první, aby si ho užili třeba i víc a přitom se počkalo na ty, co se loudají.
I would always be first afloat. I'm responsible for safety in the rib, waiting for the first boat to come. Well, let's get started. Now, the French take on it is a little bit different to my general interpretation, but of course, everything in France is about feel. I know which way to go up the beat. I have a good sense about this side. I go back. This is a French warm-up exercise, but one or two of the sailors still haven't arrived. The girls going out with the coach, doing a feel exercise, something just to get started on the session and make sure that they're not losing the time. The French, when they're alone, training in the Olympic classes, have got more touch, feel, sensation exercises than you could ever imagine. I see them, I go windsurfing on a windy day, and I come across people in blindfolds, and they can't see. But they're doing all of the sensual, all of the sensation stuff, and they often use it as the first exercise. So if someone's reading up slowly, it's your problem. You miss it, and join in when you're ready. I tend to do boat handling exercises. It's always been drilled into us in GBR that boat handling is the key to everything. If you're in a foundation period of the year, it allows you to do the manoeuvres that you might not be training on. Those areas that you've shown a green on your profile and you're good at, you still just get to refresh and keep up at a high standard rather than losing that technique and ability. Pathway, the modern term for youth and junior. The classics are all useful. Follow my leader. You know what I mean by follow my leader? The exercise. Just taking a rib, meeting the first boat out. That's my engine. The first sailboat comes along and follows me closely and tight on the back. And we stay close to the launch site where it's shifty and the conditions are changing. And we make wild routes until we have everybody following us. Controlling speed, controlling distance, accelerating fast, stopping going downwind. Now, if I drew the boats in Optimist style, it wouldn't be so unusual, would it? But it's when you're in Weymouth, out of season, and it's knackers doing it. Foiling knackers. Tornadoes in the past. I was in Weymouth in August, just before the Laser Worlds, acting as jury for the British group. And the high performance boats were doing follow my leader, one length apart, following the rib. Max, stop, up, downwind. Can you slow the boat downwind? No, just avoid the rib. Reform. But doing all of the boat handling exercises. This is the best boat handling exercise in the pathway, youth and junior. Really good in a high performance boat if the rib is driven by someone who understands the class and what can and can't be achieved. Circling the zodiac. Just sitting in your rib, light to moderate airs. The sailors come out and just begin to sail around you, practicing their tacks and jibes in the same direction. It's probably the windward-leeward course. Where the leeward mark is anchored and stationary, but the windward mark is mobile, so I can move it very quickly in the rib. But I can start off with a 2-minute upwind, everybody rounding it to port. I can take the windward mark off hard one way or the other. That creates course skew and a number of things that you have to consider upwind, long tack, short tack. But also every form of leeward mark approach, jibe, leeward mark, straight approach, etc. in a short period of time. I can then increase the intensity as the windward mark is drifting closer and the laps are becoming shorter. If someone gets ahead, they know to do a 360 and join back in. But creating boat handling exercises to start the session, to wake up the body and mind and give people an incentive to get out quickly and be part of it. With this I would stop, then we would restart and round the leeward mark to starboard, because of course we use the gates and you need to be able to make the same manoeuvre both ways and be symmetrical in your leeward mark rounds. But just thinking about appropriate boat handling exercise to start the session.
Takže účelem toho, účelem toho zahřívacího cvičení je vlastně vstáhnout všechny do toho tréninku. Ty, co jedou pozdě, tak aspoň přidají, že vidí, že už trénink začal. Francouzi mají spoustu takových cvičení, jsou zaměřený jakoby na jejich city různý. Jste viděli na tom videu, jak šlapou do vody a zpívat blbiny. Taky potkal ze surfaři, kteří jezdili ve 20 různých nebo kolika poslepu, prostě s tím maskou na očích a takovýhle různé věci. On, protože z biblické školy, tak preferuje cvičení zaměření na ovládání lodě, na boat handling. Tady vysvětloval, co je follow my leader, kdy prostě motorák řídí, kdo rozumí dané třídě, s kterou trénuje, tak jede naplno, zastaví a ty lodě za ním musí prostě opakovat tyhle zrychlení, zpomalení, zastavení, obraty, otočení, jednodílkové vzdálenosti od té lodi před sebou. Pak tady ukazoval cvičení, kdy on stojí na místě s motorákem a loď kolem něho krouží a piluje obraty hazy v jednom směru. A další bylo, že má zakotvenou závětrnou bojku, návětrnou bojku má plovoucí a z toho jezdí ze strany na stranu, tím vlastně simuluje to, že jakoby špatně postavená trať a vy musíte na tu stoupačku přemýšlet, jestli jdete na jednu stranu dlouhý, krátký obrat, taky tím upravujete to, jak se přibližujete k závětrný bojce, jestli zhalzou, bez halzy, otočení a tak. Takže těch zahřívacích cvičení určitě znáte dost, ale prostě je to dobrý start do té denní rutiny.
Then you can get into your session. I think that what I do, and I try to do, is I'm clear with the sailors. If we're trying to achieve 3 hours of sailing that day, it starts after the warm-up, and it's productive sailing when the whole group is there. Just trying to make sure that people have an idea how long they have to motivate themselves for, how long they have to keep going physically, and so they know what the activity is going to be. Get into the session as brief. Stay focused on the theme. If you're out there trying to tune sails, work on rig settings, don't try to teach the crew how to bounce on the trapeze and start to fiddle with the harness and so on. We have to stay focused in the way we expect them to if we're going to achieve our goals. This third point, try to avoid just training racing unless it's appropriate to the program. It's very easy to get sucked into doing a lot of racing with your group or just racing with everybody else. The issue is the quality of that racing can be very poor, especially prior to a regatta. You have bad behavior starting, you have bad rule observance. In a class like the laser where you have all sorts of two issues, you have pumping and then bone speed, and it's life support. We have to steer clear of doing too much training racing and less, and using it to practice certain tactics, strategy, objectives, and less it's appropriate to be learning about the venue because we're in an area we don't know or about to race at a venue or a major contest until we're not familiar. It's very easy to get sucked into an easy day as a coach and sailor in racing, but it's not being as productive as it would be training.
Takže hnedka po týdenním zařívacím kolečku byste se měli vrhnout na to, co jste si řekli na briefingu, co je předmětem toho dnešního tréninku a měli byste se na to zaměřit. Dajte si pozor na to, abyste se moc nezaměstnávali jakoby tréninkovými rozíškama, že je hodně jednoduchý se nechat do toho vtáhnout a přijdete tak o to hlavní téma toho dne, co mělo být příklad něco jiného. Ty tréninkové rozlišky jsou dobrý, až když se blíží vlastně ten hlavní závod, kvůli kterému místě trénujete, pokud se teda jede v tom místě, kde trénujete. Ale zase u toho je potřeba dávat pozor na to, že vlastně ty závodníci zase tolik se nechovají jako při závodě, protože jednak jako nedávají moc do toho těch startů, nedávají pozor na pravidla, speciálně na 42 a i na ostatní věci, takže není dobrý se těm tréninkovým rozliškám věnovat nějak jako příliš, pokud nejsou jakoby na pořadu dne.
When it is appropriate, when we're going to do more training racing, the skill is to coach the sailors to get the most out of that training racing. The most benefit does not always come from winning training races. Sure, it's great pre-contest to win some training races and pamper your ego, but if you're doing it by pushing the rules, by not sailing properly, because you have your new sails up, it's not useful. What we have to do is understand that the benefit of the exercise, or in particular the training racing we're talking about, comes from having something to work with in that race. Are you testing the course? Are you and the training partner clear one is trying to work the left of the course to the best of their ability? You make a shift on the left hand side, while the other is working the right hand side. That's being recorded so who comes out during the race. Do you have personal goals to start in the areas of your life that you're least comfortable with? Are you pushing yourself to move forward with the start that you're not good at? Etc. Producing SMART goals, we call them, small, measurable, achievable, realistic targets within that session and that training race to make sure there's more to it than this person just starts over the line, wins the race, and then their coach tows them home because they feel really good about themselves and they get the job done. How about during the race, learning more about the venue, learning more about yourself, pushing your weaknesses, using and using the training races to do the things that you can.
No tak zase k tomu, k těm tréninkovým rozliškám, že vlastně ten benefit nemusí být nutně vítězství těch tréninkových rozliškách, protože jednak můžete zvítězit jenom kvůli tomu, že jste byli předčánou nějakou výhodu, nebo že jste vyměnili své závodní plachty a všichni ostatní měli tréninkové plachty. U těch tréninkových rozlišek může být cílem třeba zjišťování, jak se chová booster a jsou podmínky na té závodní trati, takže jeden z vás může dostat ten úkol na levou stranu, druhý na pravou stranu a pak vlastně zjišťujete, jak se vítr chová v daném místě, v daném chvíli a není nutně cílem tu rozličku vyhrát.
In the UK, as the sailors are coming through and now being installed in more and more countries, is something that I would call a training diary or a training manual. It has a page for every session you do that's coached. You put in the theme because the coach has told you what the theme is. You know what you're going out there to do, and you write down these targets of what you're working in the training racing on the given day, or what you're working into that theme. So it's installed at a young age, but as well as the coach trying to coach you, you're coaching yourself. You're setting the targets, you're recording them and verbalizing them to the coach so he can assist you in giving you feedback on those areas. And it works really nicely because then when you're sailing later, when you're not coached, when you're training as a group, when the coach is distracted by other people in your group, you're taking more for yourself from a themed session on a particular topic or from training.
Že si zavádí takový seznam, který má každý těch závodníků pro daný den, co chce trénovat, nebo vlastně na tom, co se všichni budou dozvědět, co je cílem. A pak po skončení toho dne si tam vlastně doplňují, v čem se zlepšili, co jim to přineslo a ve spolupráci s tím koučem, a kouč má takhle nějakou vlastně feedback, jak to vnímají ten trénink ty osvěřenci. Takže ten způsob komunikace mezi tím koučem a těmi osvěřencema je důležitý, aby ten kouč měl nějaký feedback pro svou práci.
Exercise ideas. Where do your exercises come from to fit the theme you've chosen for the session? Experience as a sailor. What did you do when you were sailing? What have you seen and been shown in the past? Working with other coaches and other countries. Luckily, as you get older, groups, be that youth and Olympic, there's a lot of combined training with other countries. But you can see exercises that are suggested by other coaches or other nations, decide how useful they can be for you, and take those on board to use later. The original book in the UK was the Jim Salton Store Race Training Manual. It has a number of exercises in that book which are still very key and fundamental. The ROA have moved on and created a booklet. It was a really nice, rough and ready booklet where coaches had all inputted. Now it's too professional and it's nicely printed, but there is an exercise booklet suggesting on land alternatives, afloat alternatives, etc. available and for sale in the ROA bookstore. Use your imagination. We're trying to do what other people have done better, and we're trying to help people develop faster. We have to think, okay, is this the best way to do it? How could I change that exercise? What else could I be doing? Because the books are far from complete. I know that there's a lot more used in the UK than is in the books and worldwide.
Z čeho čerpáme při zavádění těch cvičení, tak z vlastní zkušenosti, když jsme my byli závodníci, ze zkušeností ostatních koučů a zemí, s kterými se potkáme, s kterými spolupracujeme. Pak tady zmiňuje knížku Race Training Manual od Saltonstova, kterou RIA rozšířila a doplnila ve svém exercises bookletu. Použijte vlastní představivost, prostě jak se můžete posunout, respektive vaši svěřenci.
And ask other coaches, ask higher level coaches in your home nation, ask other coaches in the dinghy park, they'll be happy to share ideas. A little bit of video, but just to illustrate an idea of how to make your sessions run better. Ooh, I'll hit the button this time. It's a training session in the airs, in the easterly wind. You can see we can't get block to block in the lasers. It's close to 30 knots and square waves. Beautiful day for sailing. But you're out there with an individual who's got a training partner or a squad and a group. I managed to stay on my feet. How do you make the best of these sessions? How do you make things run smoothly? A day like that, you can hardly chat from a rib to a laser radio. You can't really come alongside because the waves are knocking the boat off, or they're knocking the rib into the laser, and the sail noise is so loud that you can hardly have a discussion. Then you take something like a 470 jib, previously the Europe sails, something more stable. There's just too much wind noise and sail noise to have a proper chat afloat. I think having agreed hand signals and understanding what they mean can really make things a lot easier. As a country, as individuals and as coaches. Because when they're learning follow my leader, the following exercise in optimist and radial, then if I put my hand out the back of the rib and make the follow my leader sign, people know what to do and they don't need to sail over and waste 2 minutes and let the sails flap. But agreed hand signals can make a session run really well. You want to talk to a boat, but you can't get to them. But if you make eye contact and touch the rib, and they know that they have to come alongside, it makes things simple. If the group knows that while one fin is adjusting his mast rake and going downwind fast in a tuning session, that they go downwind to them to start the next run faster, you get more productive sailing. But I think that having your plan, sticking to it, then having hand signals and agreed ways of working as a coach sailor, coach squad can really make your time afloat far more efficient and far more useful. You can have the questions later, but you've got to make the session run while you're afloat.
OK, tak na tom videu jste viděli, že byly podmínky, kdy se asi na vodě moc produktivně nepokecáte. Ten člověk na té lodi nic od vás neuslyší, stejně jako ten coach neuslyší nic od vás, že je dobrý mít nějaký pravidla pro řízení toho tréninku. Například v tomhletom těch podmínkách mít vytvořený znamení rukama, kterými jste schopni zahájit nějaké cvičení. Ku příkladu dával příklad, když si ukáže dozadu na motor, že to je follow my leader, nebo cokoliv jiného, když poklepe na člun, když se na něj koukají, to znamená přijet sem ke mně ke člunu a tak. Takže je potřeba prostě, nebo je dobrý myslet na to, že každá minuta na vodě je v podstatě drahá a že nestojí za to tam ztrácet čas, jinak se vám ničí plachty, jinak prostě nakonec, jestli spočítáte, kolik vás stojí minuta na vodě, tak to opravdu není žádná.